Welcome to the Warriors of Light podcast, where we interview other warriors of light, people who are up to big things and making a positive impact in the world.
We live in a season of accelerating change and uncertainty. Never before in humanity have so many things been moving at such a fast pace, and the things that worked yesterday are no longer working today. So the question is, how do you thrive in times of uncertainty? How do you show up as a powerful, inspired leader? How do you show up as a warrior of light that leads the change rather than being swept away by the change? And that's the conversation we're having today with the one and only Kai Van Bodhi. I am so excited about this conversation. Kai is like one of my, I just love Kai so much. My first experience of you, Kai, was when I came down to the event that you were hosting down in California. And it was like this, it was an event like I just saw, one of my other friends was helping facilitate as well. And I just like, the moment I saw the marketing and the things that you were doing, it's like my soul was like, oh, I have to be there. Like there's something I need to learn from these people. And Kai is such a master who's cultivated a level of courage and strength and wisdom over 20, 30 years. I don't know how long you've been in pursuit of, the mastery that you've had, both in martial arts as well as in all of this alchemical soul wisdom that you've gathered. And so it's really an honor. I'm so excited to introduce you to everyone in this audience that hasn't yet been exposed to Kai. And I would love to just start by you having full permission to brag. What do you want to share about who you are and basically the journey of the path that led you to being the master that you are?
Well, first of all, grateful to be here with you, brother. Thank you for inviting me into this conversation. My journey started really through pain of my family having different medical challenges that Western medicine didn't really have answers for. And so as a young man in my early 20s, wanting to feel powerful, feel like I could have an impact, feeling some kind of calling to be a leader in the field of health, because I saw front row seat to what it's like when Western medicine doesn't have an answer, what it's like for a human being that I loved and cared about, starting with my mom, moving to my brother, and most recently, just 2 years ago, my dad. I got to really be on the front line of the mind-body connection, the limitations of Western medicine, the limitations and the offerings of Eastern medicine. And that pain and the love I had for my family members sent me to Asia, to China specifically, and I ended up staying for 7 years. And that was just a profound journey of exploration and opening. And so what I'm good at now is bringing these esoteric traditional medicine practices and combining them or explaining them through the light of science, neuroscience, and not have a person have to have faith, not have a person have to adopt some other culture's belief system, but just to see where these ancient practices that tap into the mind-body connection to regulating the nervous system, how they can be used in your life quick and dirty when you need them. When you can't always go to a 75-minute, vinyasa yoga class, or you don't have time to go to your Wim Hof breathwork class. How do you microdose these practices in the car, in the cubicle, behind the house, so that they're there when you need them most? I think that's a little bit about, and then there's a little bit of irreverence and sarcasm from my East Coast upbringing that I try to keep the work as deep as it can be, tackling trauma and uncertainty. It's really powerful to keep humor and levity in the tool belt. And I prefer to keep that as part of the framework for how we do the deeper work.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's so powerful that you've dedicated so much time and energy to learning that. I'm curious for you, like rewinding back in your path and looking at the moment that like defined your soul. Like we all have these like moments of challenge and difficulty, and like we call the dark night of the soul. Can you take us back to a time where you went through a period of time that really tested who you were and therefore helped refine your ability to show up as a leader?
Yeah, I think, when I went to China, not speaking the language, I had a lot of, I was immersed as a young man in my early 20s in a beautiful community in Virginia, an intentional community that did sweat lodges and Native American spirituality, and all their houses were ecologically sound of different types. And they were just an incredible family of wisdom. And my life was a lot of synchronicity and a lot of spirituality. Um, I moved to China thinking that, it was kind of the time that Kill Bill was out. And if you saw Kill Bill, the main character has a Taoist teacher named Pai Mei. And, she gets sent to the mountain to study with him. And I think in my naivete, I was expecting that to happen. But when I actually got to China and I was celibate, I was vegetarian, I did not drink alcohol, I did not eat meat. And in the 5 or 6 months that followed, I was deathly ill constantly, from my GI tract to my lungs, and the sickness, the illness, the disease kept bouncing back and forth. So I'd have all these digestive issues, and then they would clear up, and then I would get an upper respiratory tract infection, coughing, hard time breathing. As soon as that cleared up, the GI stuff would come back. And for 4 months, I was really suffering. And I tried everything from antibiotics to IV to Chinese traditional medicine to spiritual and faith healers. I tried everything. And I kind of made a decision. I made a decision that, like, I would rather die than go back without finding something of value. And so that was definitely a dark night of the soul. And it wasn't so much a magical herbal formula. It was my just to put an end to that story, or a little conclusion. I was studying Chinese medicine with a doctor, and in that class that night, he shared that, man is inseparable from their environment. Man and woman, human, is inseparable from their environment. And every one of us has a constitution, and our constitution of our body will thrive in a certain altitude, a certain humidity, a certain temperature. And in a different temperature, we will constantly be sick. And being sick and being sensitive in that moment, I said to him, is this place in China the best place for my constitution? And for the first time, I heard my teacher let out a belly laugh. He goes, no. He goes, there's probably nowhere worse in China that you could be for your constitution. And I said, where do I go? Where do I go environmentally to heal? And he pointed me to this direction, to the southwest of China, where the warm jungle of Thailand and Vietnam comes up and meets the cool, refined air of the Himalayas in Yunnan province. And it was this area that is like spring all year round because of these two different air currents meeting in the capital city, Kunming. And when I moved there and I relaxed my monk-like lifestyle, my health came back within weeks. So that's kind of that was one of the dark nights of my life. And I've had a few of those. They seem to come cyclically,
That's interesting. How, like, looking back at that experience, how do you feel like having that sickness and illness, that like pain, that suffering, how do you feel that like shaped you as a leader or guided your path and as a seeker?
Well, I think humility, one, two, it made me especially sensitive. I didn't just take medicine, Chinese medicine, herbs and acupuncture and energy healing. I didn't just take it into a healthy body and a healthy person and see if it could make me better. I really needed it to work. And while I believe the move to the climate and to the more sunlight and to me being more relaxed and more balanced in my life, I believe that it really helped me to filtrate out the medicine over there that was really potent versus what wasn't potent, because it either worked in my body or it didn't work in my body. Whereas if I was healthy and strong as I was before I got to China, I may not have really had a good appreciation for the medicine working or not working, because I was such a almost evangelical in my love of traditional medicine. So I think those things, how, and compassion, the humility, compassion for other people who are doing all the right things and still suffering.
Yeah. Yeah, that happens a lot, and sometimes people, I think everyone, like when they're in a suffering state, they're looking for the magic key, and there isn't one. Like there's no one magic key that like solves all the problems. It's very much like an individual like formula that's required. But I think that's really powerful. Like, what advice would you give to someone else that right now is in a state of uncertainty and they feel change and they feel like they're in their life right now, they're experiencing a lot of suffering and they know that that is thrusting them to do something different. Like, what advice do you give to people in the midst of uncertainty so that they can step back into the thriving state?
Well, from my current vantage point, the biggest perspective that I like to share and guide people into is to stop avoiding the full experience of whatever their suffering is. I mean, one of the biggest revelations for me over the last decade, and even more specifically the last couple of years, is that our emotions of suffering, of feeling like a victim, of feeling stuck, of being angry at conditions or circumstances, those feelings have immense value for us when we learn how to skillfully feel them in our body, to find them and feel them. And when we do find them and feel them, they have a half-life like a drug. They're not meant to be avoided and repressed and suppressed and felt at 10% or 15% and then intellectualized, which is the majority of the personal development work on the planet, is about thinking about our suffering, intellectualizing our suffering, finding ways to temporarily escape it. When we fully face it and feel it, it only lasts seconds to minutes. And it always transforms into insight and wisdom, liberated energy, laughter. The other side of sadness is laughter. The other side of anger is passion. The other side of grief is joy. They're connected like two ends of a stick. And we spend a lot of, my experience is that even the most enlightened of us, even the leaders, so many of us fall into the trap of trying to avoid feeling those things because we should be better than that. We should be beyond that. And I think the perspective I have now that's very clear for me is that just valuing them and investing the time and energy to learn how to fully feel your emotions, because they will transform into your guidance and your leverage and your fuel.
I really appreciate that. One of the core principles that we talk about in our legendary code, the 7 principles of inspired living, is this idea of emotional sovereignty. Like you're the master of your emotional state. But what's important for people like that is sometimes people interpret that to me as like I should always be happy. If I can control my state, I mean, I should always be happy. I should always be at level 10, like happiness, joyful, blissful. And the thing I want to remember people is like we do have the power to change our emotional thermostat, but the depth, understanding and feeling the depth is just as critical. If you can't feel the pain, you can't feel the fullness of joy, and willing to transition through that. I just recently, this last weekend, was grieving the loss of a brother-in-law that passed away, and like there was so much heaviness and sadness and mourning, but with that was like this richness and this depth of this human experience that we get to be on. And with that was this appreciation. I woke up this morning and the sun was shining and I just finished exercising and walk out. I was like, oh, I love that I'm alive today, because it brought all of that full circle. And if I had like shoved down those emotions of sadness or just fear or any of those other things down, if I had shoved them and made them wrong, then I couldn't have experienced the full breadth of the joy that I experienced too.
Yeah, I've been calling that the paradox of peak performance, because sometimes I get categorized as a peak performance coach for men, which I'm okay with that, that genre, that title. And the paradox of peak performance is most of what's sold on the market is, let me teach you how to show up at your best no matter what's going on around you. Let me teach you how to optimize morning routine, evening routine, breath work to control your state. And I'm in on all of that stuff. I'm in on all of it. But that's half of the game. There's a yin side to the game. The yin side is that type of peak performance will never be sustainable until you have a safe place in your life, a container, a dojo, a training ground, a temple, where you can be messy, confused, sad, angry, and you can fully experience those weird emotions that don't look good, so to speak, don't look like you have it together. And the quicker and the more skillful you get at being able to enter into those emotions fully, the faster you can take your position, as the man or the woman who can show up no matter what.
Mhm.
So yeah, so I love that you have that emotional sovereignty, because it's true. When you're able to face and feel those emotions, you have true sovereignty. You're not afraid or avoiding anything. You're not trying to escape from a certain identity because it doesn't feel, you don't feel like you have the courage to be there.
Yeah, and I love the idea. This idea of courage isn't like shutting down fear, ignoring fear, or running away from fear. Courage is like the willingness to lean into the fear, to feel the fear, and to like find that strength inside to move forward. And I feel like this is something that you've cultivated in your ability. Like what is your way of addressing and moving through fear and the things that might hold other people back from taking action or taking a risk or moving through uncertainty?
Well, I have a lot of answers to that, and it depends on the moment. It depends on the moment, So, one answer is cultivating a level of comfort with discomfort. Recognizing that it's okay to feel scared, to feel afraid, and then to know that I have a myriad of choices when I feel it, the least of which is to avoid feeling it, because I already know how that works out. If I avoid those feelings, they're going to come hit me in the face like a 2x4, either with a physical symptom or illness or injury or a relationship, a business or a financial or a relational, it has to be mirrored back to me. So I think the first thing is just cultivating an energy of comfort in the discomfort. And then, so I think second up from that is having, for me, it's a few men that I have in my life who I can lean on, who I can bring my full self to into a WhatsApp chat or into a Zoom call. And I can just lay it all out on the table with them. And they're going to give me the love and the support that I need. They're going to give me the honesty and the truth, the reflection. And I trust them. I trust them like Brene Brown. They'd be some type of vulnerability partner, having someone that is okay. And if you're in a relationship, it's ideal if that's not your romantic partner. Not that you don't have intimacy with your romantic partner, but when you really need, as a man, to get clear and to move through some stuff, it can be really powerful to have brothers to help you move through that. And then to come with greater leadership to your partnership, to your queen or whatever. So that's the second one. And I think the third one is most fear comes from thoughts that are probably not true. David Bayer talks about this. He uses the word primal state. When you're in a negative emotion, you are in a primal state. You are in fight or flight. And it's likely that your thoughts are not accurate in that moment. So for me, I'm one of the things that I've put a lot of time and energy training, even when I didn't realize it, was it's very easy to change the station of your thoughts. You just change your posture, move your body, move your breath, you will start to have access to different thoughts, on the radio receiver. So, recognize I'm there, get support if I need it, move my body, find where it is, make the sound, give the emotion expression in seconds to minutes. And then once I've expressed it and allowed its wisdom to come through, change the channel of the radio station to tune in to what's the higher perspective.
That's really profound. Thank you so much for sharing that. I would love to dedicate some time right now to guide people through a practice, like a practice to help people step into greater confidence and moving through uncertainty, whatever that might be. So will you guide us in something that will help us like embody this? And for
Absolutely.
those of you that are watching this, listening to this is not just hearing this conversation and like hearing these ideas, but the purpose of this show, the reason we have these conversations is to help people create meaningful movement and change and shifts, and to learn how to embody these practices in their life. So I would love for you, Kai, to guide us in an experience now.
Yeah, happy to do that. So let's just get our listeners and ourselves, let's get our left brain, our rational brain fully on board. So there is a nerve coming out of the brain and the brainstem called the vagus nerve. It's the 10th cranial nerve. And the vagus nerve goes from the brain through most of the major organs, especially the heart and lungs, all the way down to the reproductive organs. And in school, when I was learning this part of Western physiology, we would make up these little sayings. And one of the things we'd say is, what happens in Vegas, VAGUS, stays in Vegas, which means that the vagus nerve is responsible for controlling automatically your and my ability to move from a state of fight or flight, cortisol, take action, get shit done. It's time to do something. It's time to become vigilant and aware and hypersensitive to my environment, versus the other end of the nervous system, which is rest and digest, where I'm in a broad focus. I'm very relaxed. I'm picking up on lots of sensory data. I'm picking up on data from my intuition. And ultimately, while life will try to teach us and market to us that we want to be in fight or flight, getting shit done, hustle, or another type of marketing might tell us, hey, it's really time to chill out, relax, rejuvenate yourself. The reality is, what we really want is the ability to skillfully blend both of those energies in our actions and in our speaking, in our conversation. Right. And the way to do that is to strengthen this nerve that has become flaccid in most people. It's become weak, like a weak bicep. And there's a breath exercise that is created to re-strengthen the tone of this vagus nerve, called vagal tone. And when that tone is strong, you feel good in challenge. When that tone is strong, your heart rate knows how to crank itself up and then to slow itself down, and to bring with you a more blended, nuanced version of who you are. So we call this MBA, mind body alignment, and we can just jump right into it. We'll do the first round through. We'll do at least 2 rounds, and I'll check in with Gerald, but we'll do 1 round where we're going to be learning it. We'll do a 2nd round where I won't have to talk as much and you should be good. And we'll probably do a 3rd round to really let you take ownership of it. Does it sound good?
Sounds amazing. Let's do this.
All right. So we're going to start by keeping the space between the fingers open and bringing the hands together and imagining that in that space is something like a butterfly that represents your intentions in this moment. What is it that you're creating right now that is so sacred to you that it's just barely fluttering around inside your heart and between your hands like a butterfly? It's one of those gentle, new, you're just realizing you want it, a new quality of being, a new manifestation, whatever it is. And once you've got that, your intention, you're going to bring the base of the thumbs to the sternum, the center of the chest, and you're going to allow that contact to bring the breath even more into the center of the chest, inhaling through the nose, exhaling through the nose, and to feel like the breath is moving right in and out beneath your thumbs where they contact the chest, bowing the head to be able to access our emotions. The tongue touches roof of the mouth to connect those circuits. And just doing a quick 60-second check-in on yourself, just for 15 seconds, watch the quality of your thoughts. Is your mind relatively quiet or active? And as you identify your next thought, noticing what, in fact, that thought is, ask yourself the question, is that a thought that you want running the show of your life? And then dropping into the center of your chest and just noticing your emotions right now, your connection to your emotional body. What are you feeling right now? The beginning of emotional intelligence, which is the beginning of freedom, is our ability to know what we're feeling without trying to do damage control or judge it. Just feel it. And finally, noticing if you feel like you're in a hurry and just surrendering to the practice, bringing your awareness into the breath down in your belly, beneath your navel, feeling your feet on the floor, the weight of your body on your chair, and just taking about 15 seconds to check in on your body, your energy level. How is your body doing? We know now that these are the 3 centers of intelligence. Okay, stay with me. Here we go. Going into phase 2. 1, set that intention. 2, keeping your head bowed. Take a deep breath in through the nose. 3, open the mouth, exhale, and just blow out all that air and release any tension and pause in the breathless state. All right, 4, begin, eyes open, bring the arms up and open. Inhale through the nose. Exhale, mouth close and squeeze. In nose, out mouth. From the side, it looks like this. All the way in, all the way out. Lift and stretch, close and squeeze. 5 more. 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale, hold both hands flat on the chest. Sit up tall. Pause in the fullness. And then once again, blow all that air out. Chin to chest, relax, empty tension from the body. Pause. Final inhale, straighten spine, deep breath in through the nose. Couple sips through the mouth. Swallow saliva, relax shoulders, drop it down. Open the lips, exhale through a pinhole. Like air leaking from a tire, tiny opening in the lips. Feel the brain and heart coming online. When there's no air left to exhale, take a deep breath in through the nose, fill the chest. Exhale, slide the hands down so you're palm over navel, and find those box breaths in the belly. 5-second inhale. 5-second hold. 5-second exhale. And 5 seconds holding with no air. Feel the ground below you. All right, round 2. Going to bring in a little music. All right, hands come together. Setting your intention, bowing the head, base of thumbs, touch center of the chest. Find some sincerity, something authentic. What's worth breathing for? We're breathing with an intensity that's greater than our trauma and our habituated mind. Setting that intention. Keeping the head bowed, tongue touching roof of mouth. Take a deep breath in through the nose. Stay in this internal posture. And then 3, blow all that air out, relax, surrender, pause in the breathless state. And when you're ready, begin. Breathe in through the nose, open. Close and squeeze. In nose, out mouth. Draw the shoulders back and down. Open the front of the heart. Exhaling is squeezing like going into a cannonball. Slowing it down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale, straight spine, hands on the heart. Be still. And then blow it all out. Chin to chest, soften, relax, dive inward. When you're ready, pulling it, the pelvic floor in and up, the navel in and up, squeeze and draw that energy up the spine. Take a sip through the mouth. Hold. Swallow saliva, relax shoulders, drop it down, open the lips, exhale through a pinhole. Slowly bringing that abdominal wall back toward the spine, driving the blood and oxygen up to the higher brain. When there's no air left to exhale, deep breath in through the nose, filling the chest. And as you exhale, just slide the hands down, palm over navel, and find those box breaths in the belly. Being grounded is a function of the depth and slowness of our breath in the lower abdomen and our awareness of the ground below us, its stability, its solidity. When we breathe deep and slow in the low abdomen and we feel the gravity, we feel the steadiness of the earth below us, we are grounded, we are safe. We are not as reactionary. All right, one more round, less guidance, more following your internal knowing, your emotional sovereignty. Hands together, head bowed, final practice. Two, breathe in through the nose, stay humble. Three, breathe out, empty it all out, pause in the emptiness. Now with everything you've got, all your sacredness, breathe in and open, inhaling through the nose. Exhale, close and squeeze through the mouth. All the way in, all the way out. Lift and open, close and squeeze. Make these last 5 count. Last one, we meet together. Inhale, hold, hands flat on the chest. Blow it all out, surrender. Pause in the emptiness. And breathe in through the nose, straightening the spine. Sip through the mouth. Swallow saliva, relax shoulders, round the belly. Open the lips, exhale through a tiny pinhole. Slowly bring the abdominal wall back toward the spine. Primal meets divine. For a few moments, just breathe into the chest and notice the different version of you that's available right now. For most of you, this is you optimized. This is you with your vagal tone increased 100% from where it was. Ready for whatever comes. Take a deep breath in through the nose, a little sip through the mouth, swallow saliva, and as you exhale through a pinhole, just slowly connect the heart to the core, sliding the palm over palm hands down until they're over the navel. And we'll close out with a few of those box breaths. Inhaling into the deepest part of the abdomen first, holding, exhaling, holding with no air. How solid is that earth below you? One more. And go ahead and rub your belly. Spreading out that dopamine and serotonin that we just turned up the IV drip inside of us. Medicine's inside. All right. Come on back.
Felt my whole body reset. There was moments where I almost passed out because body was like shaking with energy, and then all of a sudden, so much stillness.
Yeah, one of the. I'm convinced at this point in my life that meditation is no longer really an option It's really like a standard necessary practice for a human being who is in a world of multitasking and uncertainty. And I've really fallen in love with mindfulness. A previous version of me didn't think it was active or sexy enough, but the part of me now, I can just see that if you decide to punctuate your life with the type of stillness that some of you may have experienced in this practice, it's very hard for the pirates to take over your ship for very long. But the longer you stay in the busyness and overactiveness of our minds, which is very common in our world, the easier it is for your ego or your habituated mind to take over the wheel and get by your guards, because there's no silence to notice what's the difference when my best self is driving versus when my lower self is driving the ship. It's hard to tell when you're busy. That's when it sneaks past us. So
I like how you talk about like these negative thoughts, or this, my dad would call it stinking thinking, like as like being pirates, overtaking your ship, because that's what it feels like, when we're unconscious and we let all this noise and all these bad programming, then all of a sudden we find ourselves heading in a direction, creating something we don't want because we've lost control of the steering wheel. And I think that's really a beautiful analogy of like, let's make sure that we do this mindfulness practice so that we're always, always in charge of what we're creating in our life. And I love too, like utilizing breath work as an access point for deeper levels of meditation. Talk to me about like how that's important for you, because I notice like if I just, if I just wake up and I just like sit down and close my eyes and just try to meditate, my monkey brain is so wild. But if I actually intentionally guide myself into that space through some meditation, through some intentional practices, then all of a sudden that breath work gives me an access point for deep levels of stillness as I meditate. Talk to us about the importance of like getting our body and our mind aligned when we do that meditation experience.
Well, we'll start with one of the things we say in Pathway of Power a lot in the work that I do, the system that I teach, which is that if you know how to consciously control your breath rate, which we could look at as the box breath, 5 seconds inhale, 5-second hold, 5-second exhale, 5-second hold. In reality, there's probably 7 or 8 other evidence-based rhythms that you could follow. 4, 7, 8 is one. There's a lot of them. Regardless, what we know now is when you consciously control your breath rate, you are able to consciously control your heart rate. And what most people don't realize is when you control the heart rate, because it is the primary electromagnetic organ, it's the organ that is moving blood, and specifically hemoglobin, which is the molecule in the blood that carries oxygen. And that hemoglobin at its center is an iron molecule. So when you move metal, the iron molecule, in a liquid substrate, you get a magnetic field. And that's just simple science. Now, the more breath you have, the more oxygen's in the blood. The more oxygen's in the blood, the more hemoglobin, the more iron. So the more oxygenated you are when you circulate that blood, the more magnetic field you're going to have. And this enters the people you've seen that we were talking about, earlier today, that are able to train people to open their psychic gifts in days instead of years or whatever it used to take. But just in general, exercise is more than just lifting weights, right? We want to actually optimize the heart and the brain. So by using a simple breath like the box breath and waiting for the mind to surrender to the new influence of the heart, that's one way to access, just to start our meditation with the box breath and gratitude. Obviously, the MBA is another way to access it. So in short, if you learn some effective methods to get your heart and brain in coherence, you will be starting your meditation in the first 60 to 90 seconds, where usually it would take me 15 to 20 minutes or 30 minutes to get to that point before I was integrating. Before breath work was breath work and meditation was meditation, but now it gets to be integrated. So I'd say it's really important. The other part is you probably talked to Steven the other day about hermetic principles, these hermetic laws that seem to be resurging in the field in a very practical way, in martial arts, in healing, in personal development. And Chinese medicine is a hermetic science. It's got the law of polarity. It's got the law of mentalism. It's all baked into Chinese medicine. So they're parallel developments. But regardless, I used to know, and I know now that sometimes the best time to meditate is after a high intensity interval workout. Right? If I move my body intensely in a healthy way, I love the meditation afterwards. I enjoy it. I fall right into it. Why? Because yin turns into yang and yang turns into yin. So extreme movement and activity will naturally flow into quiescence, quietness. And if you're quiet and still long enough, you will build up your potential energy, just like sleep strengthens you for the next day. So I love to use meditation on the back end of high intensity interval training, non-conventional fitness like mace and kettlebell and things where I'm moving my body and I'm breathing and I'm connecting my hemispheres, my brain. And then when I'm done with that, to lay in shavasana or to sit in meditation, it feels so good. It feels like a reward, not a punishment. So.
Dude, I love it. I love it. I honestly, I feel like I could talk to you all day long. And I'm like, the guy's one of these like soul brothers that like, I feel so aligned with your mission and the work that you're doing. Can I, as we wrap up right now, like, what would you say is like, as we navigate all of these shifts and changes that are happening in the world right now, what do you see as your purpose, and what is it that's calling you forward to move through this uncertainty and to create right now?
Well, I mean, I have a son who's not even a year old, and a daughter who's 5, and my wife and my sister. And so a big part of my purpose is my family, but it's bigger than that. I mean, the second level of my purpose is to ultimately preserve and protect the indigenous wisdom traditions that are on this planet, that I believe hold the scientific breakthroughs and the solutions and the guidance for us as a culture to move into a new golden age. We deeply and sorely need the wisdom of these traditions that have for thousands of years worked the human organism into higher cognitive abilities through ceremony, ritual, and medicine. And we've gone so far into the world of external technology that we are going to need internal technology to balance that, or we're going to end up like many of the previous civilizations on this planet. We're going to end up, our technology is going to outgrow our wisdom. So that's my second level, is to preserve and protect indigenous practices that can serve as a bridge to humanity's future. One step down from that is to help high achieving men continue to make their difference in the world without sacrificing their health and their relationships and their families. So that through me making a difference in their lives, they make more of a difference in their world, and I'm having an exponential impact.
Dude, I love that. It's powerful, inspiring. I love it. So for the people that are here right now, listening to Kai Van Bodhi share his wisdom, they want more. What's their path to accessing more of you, and what do you have for them?
I think the easiest way is just to direct message me on Facebook, Kai Van Bodhi, KaiVanBodhi. I have a bunch of video trainings on my Facebook page. If you look at the videos from an era gone by, lots of stuff about herbs, tonics, breath work, meditation, flow states. If you go to the videos section tab on my Facebook page, there's just a ton of information to dive into. And then if you're interested of what it would be like to work with me, or you want to do some breath work and get together, you can just direct message me and we can set something up if you want to go deeper.
Dude, I love that. Thank you so much for the light that you are in the world, for the powerful leader that you are. And, this whole conversation, how to thrive in times of uncertainty, it all comes back to getting centered and doing these practices and getting alignment with your mind, body, and everything that Kai has led us through. And so my invitation for each one of you that's listening right now is to make that radical commitment to yourself, that you take time to listen, to tune in, to really, really consecrate, to make sacred the time required to be mindful and to drop in and to understand how to how to really experience the fullness of who you are on the planet. When we do that, then it doesn't matter the uncertainty that happens out there. We're like the eye in the center of the storm. We're still, and we're strong, and we're clear, and we're able to vibrate in a way that we can navigate through any challenge or change with ease and grace and flow and power, simply because we remember who we are and stay centered in that. So this invitation for everyone is practice this, use this. The world needs you more than ever to be a leader. So let's step up and shine, and just remember, this is your life. Make it legendary.